Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful brave hearts. How is everyone doing? I have probably the coolest guest for you ever that we've ever had on the podcast. And my favorite part about her is that she's 11 years old. How cool is that? This is amazing. You guys, Daisy has written and illustrated a book perfect for all of you and your children that you need to make sure you go and buy on Thursday morning, April 28th. Now, we're going to chat about Daisy today and her book and everything that's covered in here because I wanted to be someone had reached out on Instagram a while back asking me how could they utilize the information that I was providing to help their children and that their children were struggling through their divorce and all of this. And I was like, this is a really good topic. This is a topic that's not talked about a lot. We should absolutely be having conversations around this. I personally don't have any human babies yet. So I wanted to go to the experts. I wanted to go to other parents who had been through the Get Over Your Ex program. I wanted to talk with experts for coaches who coach teens and children. So Monday of this week, you got to experience a teen coach and who helped you identify, maybe thought patterns that your teen might be thinking and how to handle those. And on Wednesday, you guys are going to hear from other parents. But a beautiful blessing happened where Daisy's book is coming out on the same week that all of this is happening. And how amazing is it to get advice from someone who's been through it at her age, who can also speak to your children through her amazing, beautiful book. So without further ado, I want to introduce Daisy, who has written the book called A Kid's Guide to Divorce and Life After It. Daisy, welcome to the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Good. I am just so pumped to have you here. I'm a little nervous. I'm like, wow, we've got a celebrity in the building, you guys. This is amazing.
Not quite, but thank you. Yeah, it's really great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
Of course. So tell us all about you. I want to know where you're from. What are your favorite activities? I read in the book that one of your favorite music genres is pop. So is mine. So I also need to know who your favorite singer is. And bonus points if she's Taylor Swift, because we love Tay Swift.
Okay. So, as far as where I'm from, not really very authentic in that way. Just born and raised in Texas. And I'm not quite a cowgirl, but I love Texas. I love my hometown. And we did live in Nevada at one point for my second grade school year. But basically I've just been in Texas my whole life. And my half of my family, my dad's side, is now living in Missouri. So I'll visit there every so often. And that's also one of my homes. So I love Missouri. I love Texas. And I think it's super cool that I get to be in both places and experience different towns and different places and be with both sides of the people that I love.
I love that.
No matter where I am.
Yes. Yeah. What are some of your favorite activities? What do you like to do for fun?
So I love rock climbing, and I used to take classes, but my schedule got kind of busy, so we decided to let that go for a little bit. I might be going back. I don't know, but I love rock climbing. I am a total insane level bookworm.
Love it.
And I love reading. I love singing. Um,
Yeah.
I
What's your
mean,
favorite pop
I feel like
artist?
I can carry a tune, but
Ooh.
and I like to dance, but I can't dance. So I'll be honest, I really can't dance.
So you
But
don't sing
I
and dance, you
try and I
primarily
have
sing.
fun trying. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. Who's your favorite pop artist? We have to know.
I don't know.
You don't
Like
know?
I do love pop, but I listen to like a really wide variety of music because my mom has her taste in music, my dad has his taste in music, my siblings have their taste in music. And so because I, visit and go different places and I'm with different parts of my family, I listen to all kinds of different music. So I do love pop, but I have so many different singers and bands that I like. Um but like just I do love Taylor Swift.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
She's so
I
cool.
really like Olivia Rodrigo. Her songs aren't always clean, so I always have to find the clean version, but I
Hmm.
love Olivia Rodrigo. Um, Ariana Grande. Yeah, basically just like the really popular ones.
Yep,
Not
gotta
because they're
love.
popular,
Hmm.
but just because I don't know. I just love their music.
So fun.
So yeah.
Okay, so now we have to talk about your book because it's phenomenal. So, everyone listening, I was lucky enough to receive a hard copy. I feel honored. And I was so emotional reading it. It was so good. I loved it beyond words. And one of the coolest things that she does is like after the big chapters, she has a your turn section and she asks really inquisitive questions that they seem like are they meant for other children to like journal through or to talk through with their parents or on their own or just to ponder about or all of the above.
I think it's really up to them how they take that. If they're really confused about what's happening with it, which happens a lot, that's a very normal and very likely emotion for a lot of kids to have. If they don't want to think too deeply about it because they're just so confused and they just want to kind of like let it sink in first, they can completely skip that section and maybe they can come back to it later. They can talk about it with their parents, they can think about it on their own. Maybe they can even ask their siblings like
That's a
about
good
it and
one.
they can talk over it with their siblings and see how they feel about it. It's really up to them. Um they could even like write in the book under it. They could
Mhm.
totally do that. They could it's like it's a book, so it's not really a workbook. It's helpful in certain ways that a workbook is, but it's not quite a workbook. That doesn't mean they can't write in it though, because they can also like jot under the your turn thing. They could even draw a picture to represent how they feel about it or what they think. Just whatever way helps them to think about that question in a way that's helpful for them.
Oh, I love that. I love the drawing of the picture. That's a great idea. Okay, so let's talk about your experience first before we kind of dive into the actual book itself. Tell us about your experience with your parents' divorce. We would love to know what were some of like the biggest obstacles you encountered and how did you overcome them? You list a lot of different things in the books, and I don't want to give everything in the book away, but tell us some of like the main ones.
So I think um well, I'll just share a little bit about my experience before they say this. So I think I was about 5 when my parents divorced. So I can't say that I was dealing with divorce growing up, but I can't say that I was at an age where I could understand it when it happened. So I grew up in that situation, but I didn't really have to deal with some of the shock of like, oh my gosh, this just happened. Or having to deal with like hearing my parents fighting and you know what I mean? Because I can't remember. um, and being 5, I was probably like asleep if they were like often like parents when they get divorced or when they're getting a divorce, they'll be like fighting like at night and the kids are like tossing and turning. I don't know. But um I of course in the book I give advice on how to handle that. And throughout the book, I've been trying to speak to different perspectives and what it might be like. I can't say that I've experienced it, but I can try to help with that. So Anyway, I was about 5, and when they divorced, like when I was a little younger, but still like old enough to get it, um, it was hard at times, but honestly, I feel like it wasn't that hard at first. My dad still lived in Texas, and I would visit his apartment every other weekend, so I got lots of time with him. Um, he moved to Missouri, and it still wasn't as hard. And then I feel like I got older, and it got harder. And I know this sounds strange, but I feel like when I got even older, it got hard again. No, wait, no. Sorry. It got easy again.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
I got even older, and then it got hard again. And it's just kind of, I feel like as I grew up, it really changed. Some kids, it'll be hard for them in the beginning, and then it'll just seem easy, but it might change again. Some kids, it might seem really easy in the beginning and then get harder and then change. It just really depends. But yeah, so
When it kind
I
of
feel
seems,
like growing up
Mhm.
combined with the divorce was pretty hard for me, but at sometimes it was easier. I don't know. It just really depended. Um, I think one of the biggest obstacles for me has just been all the change. I know that sounds really vague, but like I said, at one point we moved to Nevada for like a school year, and it was during the time when we were getting ready to move and packing everything up that I realized that I don't do well with change. That I don't know, I have a lot of trouble handling that. So when we moved to Nevada and then when we moved back to Texas, and even just smaller changes, or changes that may seem smaller but don't feel small to me, like transitioning from mom's house to dad's house, or from dad's house back to mom's house. And I think a lot of kids have the same thing where change can be hard. Sometimes, I mean, it can be a lot of different things, but I think change is a common thing that's hard for kids. And like divorce brings a lot of change for kids. Um, and I do in my book, I talk a lot about different ideas for that. Um, and it seems like not that long ago, but I bet it was a while ago. Um, my mom got me in to see a counselor, and she has helped me process through change. And we have specific. I mentioned transitioning back and forth between houses, and she helped me come up with transition routines to use. So, like things that help me when I come back, I've noticed is spending extra time with my mom or with someone that I love, or even with my friends, just to kind of have that connection. And so me and my mom will like go out to dinner when I get back, or we'll just have a family night the night that I get back, and we'll spend time together. So I have different things that I use to deal with change, and I've talked about that in my book. But I feel like just change in general has been an obstacle for me. And yeah,
I love
um,
that one. That's a good one.
I
Hmm.
don't want to keep going on and on, but I did. If it's okay, I want to share one more thing that's been an
Of
obstacle for me.
course. Please share.
So with half of my family living in Missouri, um, sometimes it's easier to stay in contact with them, to always remember to video chat. And then sometimes I'm busier and I forget. Or sometimes I just think staying in touch with them and feeling connected to them when they're far away. And even for some kids whose parents still maybe live in the state, just have trouble connecting with them because I don't know, maybe they don't spend enough time with them. And maybe, I don't know. It's just, that's been really hard for me, staying connected with them. And it's still really hard for me to this day. It's just, it's a difficult thing. And yeah, I've struggled a lot with that. I think a lot of kids also struggle with that. Some kids might find it really easy to just pick up the phone, just call their parents, and it just works. But I'm not one of those kids. So, um, I think, well, not I think, I know that my mom has done a great job helping me stay in touch with my dad. She's made sure that I have a device available and that I have contact with him. And I think that's really important. And she does a great job of that. It's just a really important thing for parents to do with their kids, even if they're mad at the other parent, the person who they just divorced, that's totally normal. And even if they're like, you know what, I don't want my kid to have anything to do with them, it's like, regardless, it's still important because even if you're not married to that person anymore, they are your child's parent too. And it's really important for them to have that connection with them. Your kids might be mad at the other parent too. They might be like, they might think, or they might think that the other parent left them. They might feel abandoned. And I think that's very common. And so they might not even want to talk to their other parent. But even if that's the situation, like, you need to be like, okay, well, I respect that if you don't want to, but it's important and you need to encourage them to do that. And you need to make sure that they can stay in contact with their other parent because it's just a really important thing. And like I said, it's been a struggle for me. My mom has been helping, she's been making sure that I'm able to do that, but it's still been a struggle. And I can only imagine how much more of a struggle it would be if she wasn't like helping me out with it. Um, I know this. I feel like I'm going off on an irrelevant tangent, but I think it's also important for the divorced parents to stay in touch because the other parent needs to be involved in their child's life because it's their child too. And even if they don't really want to, like, maybe they just left. Like, when the child was born, they were like, okay, bye, I'm out. But it's still their child. It's important that the parents keep in touch, even if they're upset at each other, because they need to be able to communicate and work through co-parenting, even at a distance, maybe together. And if one parent is being really stubborn, they're like, I don't want to co-parent with you. You take care of it yourself. Well, I'm not an adult. I don't really know what to do in that situation. I think that kind of advice would come from another adult who's been through it. Um, maybe you have experience with this. I don't know. I really don't know, but I think I can't really give that type of advice because I'm 11.
You're like, I've just started my life, Dorothy. Just started, just getting going.
Like I said, in my book, I try to speak to all kinds of different perspectives and experiences I can try to imagine, but with a situation like that and with a lot of other situations, I really can't understand until I'm older or until I've been there. So, yeah.
I love that. You're so wise beyond your years, girlfriend. And yes, if you have an ex who's doing some of these things that you might have mentioned, Daisy, come to me. We can talk about it. That's a different episode. I do admire you though for thinking of all these different perspectives. I think that's an amazing quality to have. And the fact that you do it in your book that other children are going to read, even if they're not having one situation happen to them, they can at least read about these other situations that might have taken place or other kids might be experiencing, which is so important. Go ahead.
Because I love how you could tell that I was like about to say something.
Girlfriend, yes, I got
that
you.
That is called being considerate and reading body language. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. A lot of my siblings don't quite know how to do that. But anyway. Okay. Oh, I'm snorting. Oh my. Okay. I think what you said is really important, that they can understand other perspectives because they might have a friend who maybe they know their friend's parents are divorced too, or maybe they don't even know. But they need to it's really important that maybe they can help their friends out with their situations. Or maybe their step siblings who have a different, like they just gained a step parent, which is the, okay, I'm not explaining this very well, which is the kid's parent. So like they kind of share a side of the family now, but still their divorced parents probably have a different situation going on. So you need to be able to, it's important for kids to be able to help and relate to their siblings, their new siblings, and their friends, and just whoever they could help. Maybe like their cousins, just anyone that kids can help. It's really important that they'll be able to, and even just to understand other perspectives. You know,
Yeah.
it might help them feel more like, wow, I feel sympathetic for these people. This divorce is always going to be difficult, but maybe they'll be like, hey, you know what? I got really lucky here because I don't have this situation. No, not that they're lucky because they don't have that situation, but because that particular thing is hard for them. And they're like, you know what? My heart goes out to these people and I want to help them because my situation is hard, but this is really difficult. So I'm
Yes.
thankful that my situation is a little bit easier.
Mm.
Um, and what I was saying about helping your siblings, they you might be in the same situation, but you're probably going to view the situation differently because a lot of different kids have all kinds of different emotions, and it can be really confusing because maybe one of your kids is like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I don't get any time with you, mom, or any time with you, dad, after the divorce because you're just like ignoring me now. And then your other kid is like, okay, you're too close to me. Like, stop. Like, I need space to think about this.
At the same time.
So, and not saying that you're like favoring one kid over the other and like spending more time with them, but just that the kids are viewing it differently. Like you're probably having the same amount of time with both of them. Um, but it's just a lot of different kids, just like parents, like just keep in mind there's a lot of different kids have different emotions about everything. And it can be really irritating because one kid is like, you're not doing a good job with this. And the other one's like, well, but you're doing like too much of this. And so it's just all different. So just try to be patient and understanding with your kids, even though it can be confusing because they're all like pulling you different directions. Like, I feel like this. And they're like, well, I feel like this, and then this, and then, and it's just kind of a lot. I know it can be a lot, but we're kids. So please just try to be patient. Kids can be real annoying. I, I'm 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 kidding.
I
I
love it. So
I know I'm definitely annoying to my mom, but I'm
funny.
kidding. But
Your mom's like, I love
anyways,
you.
it can be really confusing for kids, and we might lash out or say things that we don't mean, and we don't always understand how hard the divorce is for our parents too. I understand this personally now that I have had so much experience with it. Um, so divorce is really hard for parents too. Um, divorce is really hard for parents, but it's hard for kids too. Um, so please try to be patient with us, and hopefully we'll be patient with you.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. So patience. Well, speaking of that, speaking of parenting and going through divorce and all that. So I want to know, is there anything that you wish your parents would have done that they didn't do?
Yes.
Yeah, tell me all the
Right.
things because the my Braveheart parents want to know. They're like, what do my kids want them to do or want me to do about this? What could they do?
I have something I really want to share.
Please do.
Um, I'm trying to, I'm like freaking myself out. Like, oh my gosh, this is bad talking, man. But it's really not. I mean, it's just maybe something they could have done a little better. There are a lot of things I could have done better growing up in this situation.
There's things
Um,
that we all could do a little bit better for being real honest.
so I'm kind of dealing with a situation right now. Like I said, it's been really hard for me to keep in touch with my dad's side of the family. And um I've been trying to stay in touch with them, but I'm busy and I'll forget and it's just all kind of chaotic. Um I feel like um I've been blamed a little bit for us not having enough contact. Um because they'll or one person specifically, I'm not going to name them, but uh they'll tell me like you're not like trying, like you need to try harder because we're not having enough contact. And I feel like I haven't been getting much effort from them. So I don't know. And I feel like, well, I'm not talking about my sisters. um, I mean, they're the parent. So I need to try to reach out to them. It's important that I do that. But as a parent, it's a lot of their job to make sure that they're in touch with me. And I I'm not saying I don't need to try, but and I do, and I'm trying, but I feel like they're not, and I get blamed for it when they're the parent and they really need to go after that more. And it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. They don't mean to blame me, but it hurts and I don't really like the way they talk to me about it. So I think I'm going to get that figured out and I've talked with my counselor about it and we're going to figure it out together. Um I just wish that I don't know. I just wish that I wouldn't feel like I'm being blamed for it.
Yeah. Mhm.
And yeah.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us. I really appreciate you being open and sharing that with us. I know it can be hard sometimes. We appreciate it. But yeah, so pretty much it's like take responsibility for getting in contact with your kids wherever and whenever.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think my parents have done a really good job. There's some things that are hard. And I really don't like the way that that situation is happening for me, but we're getting it figured out. Um, I think my parents have done a really good job. I want to say something. I don't feel like this has been an issue. I feel like my parents have done a really good job with this, but this is just something that's important that I wanted to share with parents.
Please do.
Um, some kids will want space. And if they do, it's important that you give it to them. But also, your kids, sometimes they'll think they want space, but they don't always that's all not always what they need. So something that's really important is to sit down with them and ask them, they're not always they might not want to talk about what's coming up for them, but just ask them like, "Hey, what do you need? What do you really need right now? What can I do for you right now?" And like I said, I know that divorce is really hard for parents and just being like, "Hey, what do you need?" Like they might be like, you know, "I need this." And you're like, "Whoa, I don't know if I can give that." And I know that divorce is really hard for parents and they might not always be able to give that much. But just try your best to ask your kids what they need, understand and try your best to give what they need. And yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. It's going to be super helpful for parents listening in. Yes. All right. So, are you ready to talk a little bit more about your book? Are you feeling so proud of yourself? I would be so proud.
I mean, I am. I feel it's all a little bit surreal to me. It's like, wait. My mom's like, and I'm like, release day is in 1 week. And then I'm like, wait a minute. What?
It's
And
going to
then I'm
be
like,
live on the internet.
what's happening? Okay, I hope no one is wearing headphones right now. I'm sorry. I just like shrieked. I went, what? But
They're used to
sorry,
it.
people who
I
are wearing
shriek.
headphones. But so it's kind of crazy, but I'm really excited and I'm just glad that this can really I hope that it can help kids out there all over. And actually this weekend me and my mom are going to like a kids entrepreneur business fair where we live, and we're gonna sell my book there. Even though it's not quite launch day yet, it's gonna be like kind of a pre-sale thing. I don't know.
That's
But
fun.
yeah, so I'm really excited for that. And tomorrow, uh my school, we do like an annual storybook parade. So you bring in like a book and you dress up as a character. Now, I know my book is nonfiction, but I'm still a character in this story because it's a book and it's nonfiction, but it's a story. And so I'm a character in this because I'm kind of the voice of the book. I'm talking them through it and sharing my experience. So
And you're on the
tomorrow,
cover of it. It's just so cool.
yeah. So you're supposed to like bring in a copy of the book and like wear a costume. Now, I didn't want to wear like my regular clothes because I mean it would be dressing up as me, but I actually have the exact same outfit that I'm wearing on the cover. And so I'm going to wear it and I'm just going to walk around school and I'm going to carry this around in my cover outfit, and maybe a few times I'll stop and go.
Oh my gosh, this is
Like the little
amazing.
pointer finger in the air, like
Yes, looking just like you are on the
posing like on the
cover.
cover.
You'll have to put the
Yep.
pencil behind your ear.
Oh
So
dear.
good.
That was really hard to balance. I remember that. This picture, this cover came out really great, but this pencil took a lot of tries.
Really?
Yes. Let's be real here. It's really hard to put a pencil behind your ear.
I'm like,
Anyway.
I don't remember the last time I tried that. I have no idea. So, can I ask you what led you to deciding to write a book at 11 years old? Not only write it, but illustrate it as well.
So, um, this isn't going to be a super huge, crazy, inspiring story. I saw the fallen rose petals on the sidewalk, and at that moment, I knew I had to share my story. Nothing quite like the mystical or hugely inspiring story. It's just kind of like a fun story. And I'm still glad that I get to share it. So it was last year when I was in fourth grade. We were writing little informational mini booklets. I've never, I'll be honest, I know my book is nonfiction. I've never really been into nonfiction, reading it, writing it, but here I am, and this was actually so fun to write, and I'm glad that I did. But well, I guess it's more of a self-help book, but that counts, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm like, I feel like it's like
Like I said, I
kid's
love
self-help
books,
book.
but
I love
with
it.
genres like that, I'm not sure what how quite to describe it. But we were writing little informational books, and it was kind of like a how-to, you know. My first ones were simple ones like how to bake this dish or how to play this video game. Um, and we were writing our last one, and I was like, you know what? These how-tos are like, they're pretty simple to write, but they're really surface level. And I was like, I want to do a how-to that's something that I'm really passionate about, something that's really close to my heart, something that I've really experienced. And the teacher described it, the topic, as like something that you're an expert at. I don't want to brag or anything, but I feel like I know a lot about the subject of divorce. Expert might not be what I used to describe it. Not quite there, but I mean, I have experiences, and
I was like,
I
I
wrote a
read
book
the
about
book,
it.
and
So,
you seem like an expert in the book. I feel like you had it
but
pretty down.
yeah,
I would consider you an expert.
thank you. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I write a little how-to on how to help kids get through divorce? Now, we weren't planning to like publish them, like it wasn't like a writing contest or anything. It was just like a thing at school. And at one point, we brought them home, and my mom, and there were illustrations. My mom picked it up and she read it. And she goes, she this is a bit dramatic. She slaps it down onto the counter and spins around to face me. And she goes, Daisy? And she picks it back up again. She's like holding it. She's like, we have to publish this. And I was like, wait, what? And she was like, we're going to publish this. Because at this point she had already written her own book. And so she had people who she knew would help us get it published and a company that we were going to use. And so she's like, Daisy, like, this is incredible. This is amazing. We're going to publish this. And I was like, but it's a mess. And she was like, well, of course we're going to edit it. Of course we're going to revise it. Of course we're going to expand it and get some like professional illustrations in there. Not that my illustrations weren't good, but the illustrations were kind of meant to be quick. So it was like little stick figures and stuff. Not that I'm that bad at drawing, but just because it was a quick thing. So anyway, and she was like, and we're going to publish this. And I was like, heck yeah. Like, okay. At first I was like, what? But then I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's dive in. And yeah. We were thinking of having someone illustrate it, and we were just kind of oh, sorry. I feel like I totally skipped over the part. So my mom reached out to the people who were going to help us publish it. Well, who did help us publish it, who we were thinking of getting to help us publish it. And she reached out to them. She was like, hey, like, what do you think of this? Like, would you guys do this? They were like, well, it's really different from the stuff that we normally publish. Like, it's a different project. We've published children's books, but this is a book for kids, from kids. They were like, this is different, but yeah, we want to do this with you guys. Like, we've got to. They said yes right away. So that was awesome. We were trying to figure out who was going to illustrate it, and we were thinking about that. And at one point, my mom was like, why don't you just do the illustration? And I was like, okay. Because we'd had ideas for like when it was going to come out. Of course, it ran a lot later than we expected. But she was like, okay, like, we're running out of time to find some, like, why don't you just do it? And I was like, okay. I gotta say, I'm not proud of how some of them turned out, but it was a really fun experience. It was actually one of the hardest parts, because I found it really difficult to get motivation to just sit down and draw. I love art, but it was really hard for me for some reason. And so me and my mom got into a couple of not so friendly chats over it, because she was like, Daisy, like, we're running out of time. You got to finish these. And I was totally slacking. Yeah, I was. Again, let's be real. I was slacking. Of course, we did get it done. And they're here in print. But that was a roadblock. But I'm glad that I decided to illustrate it. And I'm glad that we decided to get it done. Get it published.
What a huge, right? Huge accomplishment. It is awesome. Please say that again.
It's awesome.
Yes.
It's awesome.
It is so good.
I'm sure you've noticed, but I'm definitely a hand talker. I'm just over here waving my arms around like a crazy person.
Girl, me
clapping
too.
at every other word. But
Me
anyway,
too. I'm on board.
My mom does it too.
She does,
I think
actually.
It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just, it's fun.
I love it.
There's lots of energy in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to talk about bravery. I call my people brave hearts, right? Because we're healing heartbreak in a completely new way.
And I noticed that right away. Sorry, I'm going to let you talk. I feel like I keep interrupting. But I just wanted to say, right from the beginning, when you were doing the intro, I heard you say, like, hi, my brave hearts. And I was like, oh my gosh, because that really stuck out to me, because I feel like that's a really sweet thing to call your audience. And I feel like if I were, I probably wouldn't listen to it, not because I'm like convinced it's terrible. I'm sure it's an absolutely amazing podcast. And again, I'm so glad to be here today. But I just probably wouldn't listen to it because I don't think I could really use what you said. Not saying that it's not useful. You know what I mean, right?
I do
Like I
know where
can't
you're
really
going.
apply it to my own life because
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with the same things.
You're not
But
dealing with
I
getting
feel
over
like
an ex.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I feel like if I were listening to that, or if I were listening to it for the first time, or even every time I listened, I would be like, oh my gosh, like that is so, I just love that.
They're my
Because
people. I love them.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry,
So
go
good.
ahead.
No, I love it. I love it. It's very related. It's very related. And if you ever do go through a breakup and you're having a hard time getting over your ex, I hope I see your face. Okay. So
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
I love it. I love it. So there was one of my, not one of the very, my favorite part of this book that was just so eye-opening to me was the part where you talk about the good things that come from divorce. And you mentioned in there a bunch of amazing goodness, and I'm not going to tell them all because they're going to have to go read the book. But my favorite one, obviously, for obvious reasons here, was bravery. Will you please touch on that concept and that topic with my audience today? And what made you come up with and think of bravery? You were talking to me a little bit about it earlier.
Yeah. So, bravery, courage. Pretty sure I said this already.
We didn't talk about it when we were
it was before
recording.
we started the interview.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But bravery and courage are some of my favorite traits. These are traits that I seek out in my friends. Um and it's just a trait that I really appreciate in people and that I try to build up in myself. And so I was a little bit stuck, not because there's not a lot of positive things about divorce, but I don't know. I was like, what can I say that will really like impact? You know what I mean? I was a little bit stuck. Again, not because there's not a lot of positive stuff, but I don't know. I was just stuck. And so me and my mom were thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I think that this situation has just made me a lot more resilient. I think when your parents get divorced, maybe this isn't true for everyone, but you might want to hide out. You might just start kind of, shying away from everything. But I think after you've really worked through what's happening and understood how you're feeling, and once you've really worked through it more, it does make you more brave, more resilient, because you're like, I got through this and this was really tough. I can get through anything. And yeah, it just teaches you a lot of courage because you have to deal with new things that seem scary. But yeah.
I love it. So good. I love the word bravery. And I really like how you associate it to courage as well, because that's important. So, okay, I have one more question that I want to talk about before we tell people where to go and how to get your book, all of that. And it's kind of a twofold question. So bear with me here. I like to ask a lot of questions at one time. So the first question is for the parents who are listening, what are some words of wisdom that you would give the parents who are listening today?
I know I already said this earlier, but like I said, I think it's really important during all this to ask your kids what they need, to reach out. A lot of kids can feel really uncomfortable with, not because you're not a wise person or not because they think you can't help them, but because they need a deeper type of help. They might be like, you know what? Talking to you about it is helpful, but it's not enough. They might be embarrassed to get a different type of help. like counseling or going to a support group or even talking to anyone about it, like their friends. Um, but I think it's important that you encourage them to do that and that you can make sure that you can help them find the right counselor or find the right support group or find the right person to help them through it. Because it can feel embarrassing for kids. They're like, okay, well, like, I'm fine. Like, they might think that having to go to a counselor or support group means there's something wrong with them. Um, but it's important to encourage them toward that and to help them do that because it can be really helpful for kids, even if
I
they
love
don't
that.
initially want to.
So amazing. Thank you. So my second question is kind of related, but let's say I don't know if there's going to be any kids who listen to this episode. I'm pretty sure my entire audience is adults. But let's say they end up loving this episode and they want to share it with their children. And a child, maybe around your age, is listening to this and their parents are going through divorce or breakup. What's some words of wisdom that you would tell them?
I know this is a little bit funny because it's just vice versa of what I said earlier. But kids, be patient with your parents because I understand that this is a hard situation for you. Maybe it's not, and maybe it seems easy, but there's got to be at least something that's hard. Um, Even if it's totally easy, remember that it's hard for your parents. It's really hard for them too. And just be patient with them because divorce will might leave you and your parents like in a whirlwind of emotions. That is totally normal, but just be patient with your parents because they're probably all over the place. And be honest, you're probably all over the place too. Um, Make sure that well, I did just say that it's important for parents to encourage their kids to get the help that they need. Kids, you need to make sure that you can reach out to your parents and be like, "Hey, I think I need this." Or, I did say that it's important for parents to ask their kids what they need, which is true because kids aren't always going to reach out. But kids, it is important for you to try to reach out because your parents are going to be able to help you. And if they're not, then they'll find someone who can. So just, yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Daisy. You have no idea how much I appreciate you coming on here, talking to my brave hearts. They appreciate you. So a couple of things I want to end today with. First off, we want you to become an Amazon bestseller. Are you ready for that? Are you so excited?
I'm so ready.
Okay, so we're all going to help you. Bravehearts, everyone listening, we're rallying behind Daisy and we're going to make sure that she ends up on the Amazon bestseller list. Okay. So, the way that we have to do that, from my understanding, Daisy, you just let me know if I'm incorrect here, but we need to purchase her book, Kindle version, only 99 cents, my friends,
Yes.
on Amazon the morning of Thursday, April 28th. 2022, and it's at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So 9 a.m. Pacific time, set a little calendar reminder, set a little phone reminder. And what I'm going to do is, number one, if you're on my email list, you're going to get an email with a link. If you're not, I'm also going to put the link in the show notes of this episode, but not until Thursday morning. And then also, if you're following me on Instagram, there will be the link. But is there anything that you would like to share, Daisy, or how to find it or any of that?
So, even before launch day, you can go to daisyfreestone.com. Oh gosh, I feel like I'm doing a commercial.
It's so great. I love it.
Go to daisyfreestone.com and you can sign up to buy the book on launch day and you'll get an email with a link on launch day. And yeah, I do want to say we are hoping to set the record for the most people having bought on launch day. So please help us out with that. The number currently I believe is 1,400 people.
Wow, we're totally going to blow that out of the water.
Yeah.
Blowing it out of the water,
I
girlfriend.
sure hope so. Please help me
Mm-hmm.
out, guys.
Yeah.
So Kindle edition, 99 cents on launch day. Just to be clear, it's not going to be 99 cents like forever. Just launch day. So get it then.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah. And then afterwards, you do also want to get the hard copy because the hard copy is beautiful and amazing. And we know that your kids probably want to read it in hard copy and maybe color on it. And I see a whole series for you. I see like a coloring book, a workbook. I see it all. You're like, are you yelling no?
No, I went, oh my gosh.
That would be so cool, right?
Yeah, we were thinking about maybe making a workbook. I don't know, because we do have all the your turns in here, but I think it might be fun to expand on that. So maybe that'll be coming.
I love it.
Stay tuned.
So good. Awesome, Daisy. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any last words? I'm going to link all of the links that you just mentioned and everything in the show notes for you guys. Anything you need or anything you wanted to say?
Stay brave, guys. Keep your courage because that is such an important thing. And again, I love that you call them your brave hearts. It's really important to have that bravery. And of course, I can't go without saying thank you again so much for having me here. This has been so great to connect with you and connect to the people listening. And just, it's great that you had me here today. I really appreciate this. I think this podcast is important. I think it's helping so many people and is going to help so many more people in the future. And I just really appreciate you having me today.
Awesome. Thank you, Daisy. Bye.
Bye.
If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.